So Pokemon released the new trailer for Pokemon Legends ZA. It was very brief. I don't know why they announced it 2 months in advance. But regardless, I have some thoughts. So excuse the poor audio. I am hanging out in my hotel room mid-travel. I just watched the trailer. And I'm just kind of gonna go off the cuff and talk about things that interested me. No fancy theories or anything like that, but we'll just start with, stray thoughts. I think first, the character models, I was blown away. I really was, especially now that we have the Switch 2 version on the way with the promise of enhanced graphics and frame rate and all that stuff that Pokemon has definitely been lacking in the last few years. It looks so smooth. It looked incredible. I know it's a trailer. I know that they pre-render stuff, and undoubtedly it'll look better than when I'm playing handheld on my Switch 2. Certainly if I were to play on my regular Switch, but just the way the characters move, it is so fluid, so true to life, while also kind of having that cartoony, dynamic motion that Pokemon is known for. And I'm talking about human characters here, like the way the trainer looked. If you just look at their face when they are activating their Mega Ring, or just expressions running around town, even just like the physics of their clothes, it looks really good. I am super excited. I truly think this is the best that 3D Pokemon has ever looked in the character department. The outfits, too, are really, really nice. I mean, that's kind of to be expected. I wouldn't expect anything less for the game set in Kalos, the fashion region. But the fashion options look really nice here, on top of the default outfits for the trainers. Really good stuff. Alright, we can get into some deeper stuff now. Obviously, they teased us a little bit with the story. They're keeping a lot under wraps, but it seems like one main hook or conflict is rogue Pokemon mega evolving in the wild without trainers. Which is definitely interesting. It's to be expected. I made kind of a theory prediction video for the story last year, which definitely is not true. That was my prediction that the game was going to be set in the past, like Legends Arceus. But in that, I said that some kind of latent energy, maybe centered around Prism Tower, or at least the city of Lumiose itself and the fallout of the Ultimate Weapon, would, make Mega Pokemon evolve randomly, and that would be a threat, kind of like Alpha Pokemon in Legends Arceus. And that definitely seems to be the case here. Seeing as the setting is contemporary, I would assume a decade after X and Y, just like real life, I would assume this is the fallout from Lysander's activation of the Ultimate Weapon. What's interesting is that canonically, Mega Pokemon are only supposed to be doing that. I mean, I guess it's partially radiation, but partially they really hammer home the point that it's about the bond between trainers and Pokemon. So it's a bit odd to see wild Mega Pokemon. That is unprecedented for the franchise, but at the same time, it's a unique spin on the concept in that, maybe it's just like radiation is all that a Pokemon needs to physically activate its Mega form, whereas the bond with the trainer is less about activating it and more so controlling it, because it's super dangerous. So that seems to be the case here, with these wild Mega Pokemon being framed as more negative threats, whereas the ones that you access yourself with your Mega Ring that you're given, I assume early on, are, gonna be positive, good. Like domestic Mega Pokemon are nothing new. They are to the point where they're literally fighting in the streets of the biggest city in the region. But the wild ones that come out at night are threatening. And I also like that day-night cycle. It kind of reminds me of Breath of the Wild in that way, during the day versus at night, where you can, during the day, again, it's more positive. You are, having a more leisurely time, catching Pokemon, just doing normal city things, whereas at night, it gets dangerous, and that's where you have to put the training that you did and the resources that you amassed during the day to the test. On that topic, the Rust Syndicate, that seems to be a threat, right? It seems like a good change after years of fun villains. I assume this isn't like the main villain team of the game. Certainly not a world-ending threat. Yeah, it seems like these guys kind of inhabit some kind of power vacuum in Lumiose and seem to be kind of a classic just do bad stuff and make money team, like Team Rocket. They seem to have business with your crew. I don't know what they meant by that. They explicitly said business or something in the trailer, and that was weird. I'm not going to get too caught up in the story. They were obviously keeping things under wraps. I would like to be surprised. I don't think it's worth speculating all too much, but I will say that one character, the leader of the team, amazing character design. Corbo, really love it. Again, human characters, I'm just blown away by all the models in this game, and his ace is an Arbok. I think they are telegraphing that there is going to be a Mega Arbok. I don't know if that's true or not because I have not exposed myself to leaks. Many of you have. You would know if I'm right or wrong, but that's cool. I'm excited for more Mega Pokemon. But the one that we did get, Mega Dragonite, I don't like it. If you were a longtime viewer of the channel, you know that I'm kind of tepid on Mega Pokemon as a whole. Not so much conceptually. I think it's a great gameplay mechanic, and I love, the just kind of awesomeness to it. It's cool to have that bond with your Pokemon go to another level. I'm just talking from a design perspective. I've never been a fan of the kind of grotesque nature of Mega Pokemon. The fact that they are said to, cause pain to the Pokemon makes me uncomfortable, and they all look kind of just uncomfortable. They're just like more hardcore, edgy, overly detailed versions of already imposing or detailed Pokemon. So it doesn't really do much for me. I think Garchomp is cool enough. I don't need Mega Garchomp to be cooler. That's why I prefer regional forms as a mechanic, because those typically reverse the concept of a Pokemon. Those are the ones that are like, okay, you like Persian as a attractive, sleek cat Pokemon. What if we made it ugly and its face was fat and it was, a dark type, antisocial instead of a house pet? So I like regional forms. It's more interesting to me to play with a concept rather than just doubling down, being like, yeah, Garchomp is awesome, let's make it awesomer. And I know some Mega Pokemon, bring something else into the mix, like Lopunny goes from a more just feminine, dainty Pokemon to a still feminine, but more athletic and muscular Pokemon. Obviously bringing in other typings as well. But Dragonite seems to be more in the camp of, not so much introducing a new concept, but just adding on to what Dragonite already is, which is cute and round and simple and kind of stocky and awkward looking. And I don't love Dragonite, which is probably why I don't love the Mega, because it's not too different. It's just wings on the eyebrows, which is very in line with the philosophy of Megas. Again, it's just kind of a mildly grotesque, clunky body feature. It definitely fits. I've heard some talks of conceptually it might be inspired by, medieval representations of biblical angels with kind of wings sprouting from weird spots. So, it's a fine concept, and I'm excited to see more Mega Pokemon prop up. Again, I am unspoiled on leaks. I don't know what Mega Pokemon to expect. I'm sure many of you do, but I don't. So I'm excited to see what else we get. But yeah, going back to characters, I was a little surprised at the end and a little disappointed to see the professor is not Sycamore. I wonder where that guy is. It's kind of interesting. You would think that if they are making a game following up, another main series game, that they would just have a chock full of fan service. Hey, remember this character? This is, he's back. And they didn't really do that here, except for AZ, which, yeah, that was in the last trailer. That's a big hook. There aren't any really returning characters, except for this new professor, actually, that replaces Sycamore. I didn't realize it. I genuinely thought this was an original character until I was watching someone else's reaction video while I was formulating my notes for what you're watching right now, and they pointed out, some random comment was like, hey, Mabel, that's one of the Team Flare grunts, or admins rather. And I was like, that's true. I actually can believe that I didn't think of that, because yeah, those Team Flare admins were really not memorable. I think there were 3 female and 1 male one. Don't really remember any of their names, but Mabel certainly was one, the blue-haired one. So it's cool. I just think from a world-building perspective, obviously not much of a character as of now. I'm sure she'll have much more of a character in this game. But just from a world-building perspective, really cool to have reformed scientists of the villain team. It reminds me of, like, you know, real-world Operation Paperclip, where, you know, reformed scientists from governments that were doing really bad things, you know, were brought over to kind of use their knowledge for scientific research rather than evil and war and horrible things. That seems to be the case here, and that's cool to me because we've never really gotten an answer to that in the Pokemon world. You beat the villain team at the end of every game, and they just kind of give up. And that's pretty much all that I have from this new trailer. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, it was not something that needed to be announced 2 months in advance. It was a little bit of a letdown in that regard, but in terms of the promotional flow for this game as a whole, I'm glad that they're holding back. I don't really have much thoughts on the story because they haven't revealed much, so I'm just kind of along for the ride. You know, I don't expect more than a dozen or so, maybe even half a dozen new Mega Pokemon, so I understand that there's not all too much for them to show off, hence why it's a lighter promotional cycle than the very overwhelming summers that we got before Sword and Shield and then Scarlet and Violet. But yeah, I'm excited to be surprised. It's hard to believe that we are just 2.5 months, 3 months away from the release of ZA. It feels like, well, we have known about these games for over a year and a half at this point. It's hard to believe that they're approaching their release, and I am excited to see more and cover more. So as always, please make sure to join my Discord. The link is right down in the description below if you want to talk ZA with me. Leaks or not, just regular old ZA talk. You can also participate in my art challenges that I have running on my Discord right now. It will be featured in a video on the channel on August 8th. So I hope that you participate. Besides that, I will see you around for the next video.